Great. Okay, so we are recording. So welcome everyone to our reading this afternoon featuring Terence Culleton, Richard Fein, and Ken Lee. You can see on the screen, if you can see the screen, I'm David Miller. I'm on the board of the New England Poetry Club, and also with Hilary Solek, who is our Zoom tech for the afternoon and is recording the event. A couple of, before I do introductions, just a couple of things, I think, actually really only just one thing in terms of Zoom etiquette. I see most people have their audio muted, and that is a good idea, just because with the best of intentions, you know, the dog barks in the other room, or sometimes you can get these weird echo cycles where someone's sound goes into someone else's computer and it comes back out into the same, very disconcerting. If you have a particular problem with your sound, as for example, Terry Culleton, as we've noted, had a devil of a time getting his sound unmuted, well then certainly, feel free to keep your microphone unmuted, but please, as a request that everyone will appreciate, do your best if you can to keep all kinds of background sound away. Everyone appreciates that. So anyway, we'll head into the introductions. So what I'll do in each case is do the introduction, one at a time for the poets. I will then, pretty early in the poet's reading, and hope not to be distracting, I will drop a link in the chat where you can purchase one of the poet's books. Their most recent, I think, is what I've attempted to find links for in each case. And I'll also post all the other links at the end. So we'll begin with Terence Culleton, a former Bucks County, Pennsylvania poet laureate and two-time Pushcart nominee. Terence Culleton has published several collections of formally crafted narrative and lyric poems, including A Communion of Saints from 2011 and Eternal Life 2015, both with Anaphora Literary Press. His most recent book, A Tree and Gone, out through Future Cycle Press, is a collection of formal English sonnets, many of which have appeared in journals and anthologies and or been shortlisted in sonnet contests. A Tree and Gone was recently included in the New York Review of Books small press releases listing. Mr. Culleton has had work featured on NPR, and he reads widely throughout the Philadelphia and New England regions. And just before I let him get going for you and drop a link in the chat, I was hearing a little bit of electronic noise, but I don't know where it comes from. So we'll just hope for the best. And please, with that, Terry.
Great, thanks. And thanks to the New England Poetry Club for doing this and for all of the programs that you sponsor. I just read an article from the New York Times announcing, it seems like every 10 years somebody has to announce this, that poetry is dead. And I think that organizations like NEPC really provide a set of counterfacts to that idea. I think poetry is alive and well. They blamed it, oddly enough, on T.S. Eliot, who was bemoaning the deadness of civilization to poetry. But be that as it may, I believe in eternal life. So I thought I'd start my reading from my second book and read a few. A lot of these poems involve eating or eating but not eating at the same time. Some of them are a little paradoxical. And I have animals in these, several of these poems. A couple of them have dogs in them because I'm a great dog lover. But this first one is about both. It's got a dog who's at least chewing. gnawing. It's called bone. The way the sprawled dog gnawed a T-bone all day, tugging gristle, grinding at a marbly spur, shellacking fissures with her long, loving tongue, her passion, staring at floorboards as at a vision of marrow, the way her ears bounced when she raked a groove, mouth straining down in an ecstatic grimace, the fact she was manic with little more than the idea of meat, its memory, a greasy trace in a crack, a gnarled fleck on a nub, her deep love for it, her belief in it, like a theory one gives one's life to without adding costs. Rabbits unchased, holes not dug. The way she lay back at last, uncognizant, serene, bone discarded like some lacy underthing on the bordello floor of her lustings. That's how you and I should live. That's eternal life. The next two poems are feature naked people. And this, the first of the two also features an iguana. It struck me when I was writing this that this is kind of a modern day mother and child, Madonna and child poem. The woman has an iguana on her chest. And iguanas have a kind of symbolism for Native American people. They symbolize the power of withdrawal. So there's that stuff kind of running around in my head in this poem. It's called Veranda. Naked on the chaise lounge, she fiddles with and strokes the crest of an iguana, stolidly sunning on a greased brown breast. Two claws clutch and two retract. Askance, impassive, eight-ball eyes regard her sternum as a fact not to be processed otherwise than as the source of all heat. If it can hear her lungs fill up, if listening in on her heartbeat, it feels her delicately cup its curled tail above her pubis, all it knows is warmth, as she, for her part, scowls in drowsy hubris of weekend waste and luxury. Her sunglasses spit back the sky. The wires extruding from her ears conjoin as one, a letter Y, exactly where the lizard rears its head in broiled debauchery. Flower boxes line the rail, snowing yellowed stems which she brushes off like fingernail clippings to the scorched floor. Winds stir blindly here and there, gently jiggling the sliding door in its track, unsettling her hair. Lizard, for your blood's hot bliss. Dreamer, for your M&Ms, and the way your fingers curl to kiss its skin. May all these yellowed stems, these petals blown beneath the chair, burst to life and overgrow in bells and cups and angel's hair, the whole veranda and the world below. You've noticed that rhyme, and in fact, it's in tetrameter quatrains, tetrameter couplets, actually. for some reason, I love that form, and I write mostly formal poetry. But that form, for some reason, if it works, it really works. Two of my favorite poems in that form are the "Come Live with Me and Be My Love" poems, Marlowe's poem, and then Raleigh's response to it. So Marlowe's poem is pretty much, hey, let's live. It's sort of two hippies kind of deciding to live together out in the woods. And then Raleigh has the maid reply to the shepherd and say, yeah, but what about winter? What about old age? What about all those things? You're not thinking very far ahead. They're two wonderful poems, as is Donne's contribution to the tradition. But I thought maybe there's a third position one could take. So this is in the voice of a middle-aged husband to his wife. It's called This Our Anniversary. And what he's talking about is going to a nude beach. It's after Marlowe and Raleigh. I've heard about a strip of beach. Its loveliness surpasses speech, whereas per custom and statute, a swimmer need not wear a suit when frolicking out in the waves. There, bare-assed kids dig pirates' graves, as bare-assed moms and dads appall decorum with a volleyball. If we're still bon vivant enough to wade like babies in the buff, while strangers bask unfazed nearby, let's drive on out there, you and I. We'll recline on cushy towels as wind and waves repeat their vowels, gently rubbing, if we dare, sunscreen, sunscreen, everywhere. We will scale the roughest rocks, innocent in sneaks and socks, as wavelets break and spindly gulls sing wind-whipped snippets of madrigals. You can wear around your waist a belt of shells and interlaced seaweeds, as I signal boats with flags knit out of stout sea oats. Though we complain of cares to come, and middle age proves wearisome, and every love's annealed by need, let time and tide provide this mead. No matter gray or fat or thin, sun's purest gold on private skin. If you approve of this affair, get in the car. Let's drive out there. We'll take a tent for privacy on this, our anniversary. If it's not more than you can bear, get in the car. Let's drive out there. All right, that's Eternal Life. The first book I published is called A Communion of Saints. I got into reading hagiographies for a while. And of course, so many of the stories of the saints are as much the product of folk imagination as they are of any kind of canon law that kind of establishes the facts of the saint's life. Some are more folk legends, some are more historical. But they were so much fun to read that I decided to make up my own saints. And so these are mostly narrative poems, but one of the premises is that it's impossible now, really, to be holy, because you would be diagnosed and then medicated. So many of these saints who starved themselves in order to achieve holiness would now be diagnosed as anorexic and would be given the proper treatment. So we've kind of reduced a lot of those larger abstract things to the products or the objects of scientific method. And I'm not complaining about that. It just is interesting to me. So my first saint, naturally enough, and continuing the theme of food and eating, is Saint Anorexius. Each day, he eats a grain of rice, sliced thin, a dot of cottage cheese, a molecule of milk, a nice afterthought of Cantonese duck or 1,000-year-old egg. He'll cook for hours. He'll stir and boil the pot down to one perfect dreg, the which he'll sear on a heating coil or fricassee with onion skin, algae pate, and snail's horn tips. He isn't well. He's getting thin and doesn't care. He smacks his lips thinking of tomorrow's feast. Roast splinters, dits, vapors he'll sip from the air without the least sign of lust. That's the appeal, to waste away all gluttony, all selfishness, design, and spite, and drooling need starved off. Thus, he becomes a beam of light. One of the things I did with that last line is I reduced it by a foot. Those are 4-foot lines. That's a 3-foot line. I wanted to do a little mimesis of this guy getting smaller. The second one is called The Legend of Saint Apneus the Sleeper. Lots of times these guys, lived by themselves, so nobody realized they were dead for a while. And often they were considered saintly if their bodies were preserved. The Legend of Saint Apneus the Sleeper. He prayed for years only to find God inaccessible to prayers, as to the cogitating mind, beset with culpabilities and cares, anxieties, regrets. We pray against illusions, understand. Therefore, he vowed to sleep away his life. He'd found a certain gland beneath a certain serpent's skin, whose contents, squeezed into a tea, induced to sleep. This scant toxin our saint collected carefully for 7 weeks until the stuff filled tiers of tiny green cork vials, enough to seem to him enough. Infusing it in camomiles, fenugreeks, and simple blacks, he slumbered longer every day, awakening only from attacks of hunger he repulsed, some say, with angel-given barley bread that he washed down with yet more tea, whereat he stumbled back to bed. Some commentators disagree with this about the bread, but the trend soon had him sleeping through the week. He slept at last for weeks on end, his dream work innocent and meek, although he snored. Now he slept in silence, 6 weeks straight without awaking once. Our hermit kept a fast no one could break. They'd shout outside its hut, Sorry, I lost my place. Some kicked the door, and one bright day they kicked it in, gathering dumbly round, unsure it wasn't something like a sin to save a saint from holiness taken too far. Around his head, yellow worms had hatched to bless his sleep. They left him there, quite dead, but went back periodically to change his linen, comb his hair, wondering, could he finally see God's brilliance in this strange godmare? All right, this one is about a miracle and a dog, and also a monk who really likes to eat at night in his cell when nobody knows that he's eating. It's called The Miracle of St. Crane's Napkin. Such miracles love works for dogs. Cake crumbs infiltrate the fibers, pierce the nap, live a secret life there. Grease from thumbs pinched mincingly into a mystic lap during the morbid tuck-in, pick and peel, transubstantiates the linen. Wine, poured liberally all throughout the meal and sloppily, splatters to combine with each scintilla of the shameless glut the puff-cheeked monk engages in tonight in secret in his room, curtains shut, the lamp low, and the hound, wholly contrite over his belly lust for shrimp or shreds of beef breast, offering not a semi-groan. The monk's cheeks click, he sips, and silver dreads he won't let drop a single marrow bone. But love contrives such miracles. His love for the monk's love for God, or God's for splayed hounds casting bloodshot eyes above for manna that never drops. Fatso nods, mutes a belch with napkin at his lips, gets up, dropping said napkin to the floor, stands briefly at his psalter, hands on hips, then lies down for an after-dinner snore, hearing which, poor Silver chins his way across the planks to where the napkin lies and sniffs it timidly, a hound at bay in his enlightenment, and starved surmise that this indeed is meat or some rich thing, and who's to say it's not? Incredible events are often willed. Seas part, rocks sing, souls scarf down what is inedible. The dog ate the napkin. Poor dog. How much time?
Well, I think probably one more.
Okay.
Be good.
I have this other book here, which is my sonnet book. Let's see. Well, I'll do this since I'm doing food. I'll do this poem called Fudge Shop. I grew up in Philadelphia, so we went to Ocean City a lot when I was a kid, and you could go to the fudge shop there, and they had a kind of a mechanical mannequin stirring fudge in a kettle. And I always loved to just go down there and look through the window and watch this fudge being stirred up. So this is a poem about that. Fudge shop. Whirling in a pot of scrumptious muck, the ladle thwopped and diligently clacked against the copper, or it scraped and struck bottom, as desire against some fact will claw to speak of sweetness in the world. The aproned cook, primly stolid, leaned into her task as the confection swirled into itself, and nothing intervened between itself and its deliciousness, inbreeding in that solipsistic pot. The more of it kept cooking down to less, and even less, until a thickened lot sat rounded at the bottom of the kettle, convex in a concavity of metal. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Terry. Oh, such a vivid, so yeah, very vivid and also such contributions to some of the great traditions as well, fascinating. Yeah, to carry them on.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Wonderful. So we'll move on. Next, excuse me, Richard Fein is up next. Richard Fein has published 12 books of poetry. Among the latest are Not a Separate Surge, New and Selected Poems, and Losing It. Losing It received an honorable mention for the NEPC's 2022 Sheila Margaret Motten Book Prize. He has also published 3 books of translations of Yiddish poetry, the latest being The Full Pomegranate, Poems of Avram Sutzkever. He has published 3 books of prose, a critical study, Robert Lowell, a memoir of Yiddish, The Dance of Leah, and a book of personal essays, Yiddish Genesis. He lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So, Richard.
Thank you, David. Out at the Cape, sitting on the steps leading down to the lawn, where the plastic clothespins spring-clipped nothing except themselves to the vacant line, I suddenly saw those wooden clothespins, smoothly grained, fork-legged, and derby-headed, that my mother used to wedge into the clothesline. A braided rope, also good for making knots, or playing jump rope, or grabbing in tug of war. That line she strung out near the pulley, mounted above the gray clothespin bag, wide and deep as a sewer's sack. Then those wooden cleft figures disappeared, and I returned to staring beyond the volleyball net at the foliage that marked the end of our property. Leaves and brake and bush and stems and viney things so dense I couldn't see through it all. Nothing but that wilding wall of green with gaps of darkness. I was looking for an answer to my question, what should I do now? Was I through now? Was I out of poems? Have I lost my powers? Time now to lie down and die. And all I did was sit, staring at the silent green. The Mouth of Uncle Max. 1. The brassy glare of a gold tooth socketed in his lower gum, branded the Yiddish my Uncle Max expelled. His nugget tooth exhibiting an alien luster. His hands gesticulating his sounds in the living room. His clack grating that sheeny element into my food. And when he gloated or argued, I could see the ridges of his enamels and amalgams crated all the way to the back of his mouth. His sounds conspired with the tribal radio station my father dialed up on Sunday mornings, with the chatterboxes in the stores, with the pitch of the fruit and vegetable peddler guiding his nag by the throat latch down the streets of our neighborhood, with the supplicant cry of the old man in the alley, cash clothes, offering money for old clothes and rags, his Yiddish clamoring into my ears. My mother calls down, asking him up to our apartment. What are these sounds? What are they doing to me? Why must I protect myself from this old world seeping into me, from these sounds snaring me, from that alloy tooth implanted in Uncle Max's mouth? 2, I can't understand why Yiddish has such a hold on me. Ich kann nicht verstehen, was Yiddish hat das Anhab auf mir. Yiddish, what did I run away from when I ran away from you? What did I embrace when finally in my 40s I embraced you? You are more than speech. You are what went into the making of me. I can see again Uncle Max's tooth, how gross and garish it was, how repulsive and conjuring, how primitive and configured, that brazen gold that threatened me, that seized me, that glary yellow grinder that flashed way back in his mouth, where accents hive, gauche habits thrive, and the old world lurks, that source and cruncher of sounds, that grasp, that unhap. Reading book 11 of Paradise Lost. On an evening that means a lot to others, Christmas Eve, I am moved to tears by Angel Michael's herbal cures of Adam's eyes, removing a cataract induced by Satan, opening Adam's eyes to the world he is about to enter since he's been expelled from paradise. Milton inventing this visionary moment, though his own eyes have gone dark beyond all help, while Adam is invited to open his. How come I hadn't seen the pity of this moment the times I'd read the poem before, seen Milton's presence in his genuine gift to Adam? And now this evening means something further, something other than an evening that means a lot to others. One dearer to me now, because I see Milton anew, hear him anew, the scene stemming from rue and eyebright, myself entranced by the plants Milton employs, found in formulary and song. To a woman remembered, I will die, just as you will. You and I, unknown to ourselves and to each other, when ears can't hear or tongue make sounds. Even a young poet who longs to lay a girl, as I did you, will in time lack everything. All shapes will disappear from my mind, even the ghost of you lingering there. Your voice coming down the stairwell. Is that you, Richard? It's me. Memories, versions, voices come to an end. The stairs, rooms, buildings, all gone too. You on the third floor, buzzing me in. Northeast corridor. I might explain, YIVO, Y-I-V-O, is an acronym of an institute in New York City devoted to the study of Jewish life in Eastern Europe. Northeast corridor. Once riding Amtrak from Boston to Penn Station to read my translations in New York, I saw the ghosts of Yiddish poets wearing furrowed mantles and coming out from behind trees somewhere north of New Haven and asking me to translate them. And I wrote a poem about their emergence and their approaching the train and letting me know they gave me sanction. Now, I imagine they come from the woods again and invite me to join them, to go back among the trees with them. Read your poems to us, their leader urged. And because you have translated our poems into English, we will return the favor and translate your poems into Yiddish, and you will become part of our Bruderschaft. And thus, that very language you once wanted least to do with now becomes that language you need most of all. Come, talk with us. Their leader, whom I knew had an elegant English, because we chatted once in a restaurant on East 86th Street near YIVO, extended his invitation in Yiddish, trusting I would understand, as I once did over our coffee. And the gravelly, claimant, alien voices of the old men of my childhood changed into the leader's kind offer. Come, he invited me again. Come with us back into the woods where you can talk with us. Kom met ons terug en warm, wo du kannst redden mit uns. And as I followed the others moving deeper into the woods, their mantles changed into the barks of trees. I'll conclude with this one. Love lines in old age for Bert Stern. If you were a woman, I would steal you from your husband. Or if we were gay, I would have an affair with you. But we're two old Jews, straight in a manner of speaking, who dutifully got their PhDs, taught, had kids, and kept their passion for poetry, reading it, writing it. I love Whitman a bit more than you do. You love Blake a bit more than I do, but we both stick by Yeats and Wordsworth and Hardy. You're drawn to the Buddha. I'm still entwined in the Jewish Bible. You smile at the way the grass bends when an army invades, and the way it bends when that army retreats. As you read in Dufu, well, I am stuck on the hot coal the angel's hand lays on Isaiah's lips. We hold our love in our differences and in our contradictions. To think, I have lived long enough to fall in love with a guy in old age. So this is Calamus without the love flesh swelling. You keep me going, I keep you going, poetry keeps us going, we gas each other up, pump up each other, feed off of each other. It's like Whitman rocking his chair on Mickle Street in Camden, and his long looked for camarado finally shows up, and they go at their gabbing, just as we do. The achievement of Pound, that son of a bitch. The Red Sox. The beauty of Tennyson when he's lost his faith. Fascism in America. David Ferry's gorgeous translations. The women's movement. What is free verse? How differently we write. You patiently waiting for nature to reveal itself. I wrestling with a night spirit until I am bent into a new name. And then sometimes you write a bit like me, and I a bit like you. How we both adore the necks of Degas women, and how we still ache over the fall of Delmore Schwartz. And we tell each other our dreams, like exchanging poems. Mine of a carboy seated in the corner of an empty room, crated so as to safeguard its corrosives. Yours of sitting on a porch in your beloved Adirondacks, watching squirrels' tails divest and a plumed scamper turn into a naked scuttle. Despite lagging energies, the blanks, the slippages, how long I have waited for you. I feel like a kid skipping home from kindergarten and breathlessly telling his mother, I made a new friend today. We're going to be friends of life. He invited me over. I invited him over. His name is Bert. Okay, thank you.
Wow, Richard, thank you very, very much. It's such a, I say, I have read Losing It with great pleasure, and there's such a sense of embeddedness. That's one word that comes to me in so many dimensions. Friendship, a tooth, you know, all of that. It's quite wonderful. So thank you
very much.
Oh, yes, you're quite welcome. Before I introduce Kenneth Lee, I recalled that when I meant to post the link to Terence's book, but I only posted it to him individually. So here's the link that's going out to everyone. So there we are. Now to introduce, pardon me. Yes, thank you. To introduce our third reader, Kenneth Lee is the author of 7 books of poetry, as well as individual poems published in Nimrod, Poetry East, The Lyric, and several others. He is a recently retired pathologist at Brigham and Women's Hospital. He lives in Jamaica Plain with his wife, Kathleen. So, Ken, please.
Thank you, David. It's really a pleasure and an honor, I think, to be able to read to the New England Poetry Club. And I will start, I think, with my first poem, The Four Corners. On our bikes, we would ride up the corner, about a mile to reach the business district of Rivervale, known as the Four Corners. A gas station on one, a woodlot on another, an empty field, a country store made for. The last is where we traded dimes and quarters for a Coke and a piece of blueberry pie, or a soda at the soda fountain, or the jukebox where we coaxed some rock and roll. It seemed when I was in them, those were the only days there ever were. But a breeze came down from the woodlot trees and blew us out of them, back up the road, and out of Rivervale to the four corners of the world, empty of blueberry pie, jukeboxes, bicycles, ice cream sodas. Phases. It used to be my life was lived in phases. Each one, by definition, had an ending. My childhood phase, my college boy phase, my married, raising children phase. Now I've entered my retirement phase. It ends with the one I was in before conception. I remember it being a very long one. There's a couple of Florida poems. We took a vacation in Florida last winter. This one's called De Leon Springs. A 50-foot wide pool of pristine water gently blossoms up from underground, falls down into a river, rounds a bend, and disappears into the woven lushness. Ponce's famous fountain? No one knows. But they put in walls and steps, employed a lifeguard. So if you plunge at steps to postpone dying, they guarantee that you won't drown by trying. Family reunion. 63 years since the oldest left for college. Today, all 6, along with spouses, are reunited down in Vero Beach in the columned white castle that the youngest had built. Roomy-eyed, saggy-skinned, double-chinned, obedient slaves to the law of entropy, we sit, eat quiche, sip coffee, stroll the beach, where we watch the gulls gliding above the breakers, then return, read books, have lunch, take naps. Late afternoon, we walk the shore again. We note the clouds have piled up. Our shadows have swiveled eastward, where the waves come crashing down and fall on top of them. Motorcycle rally, DeLand, Florida. Once a year, about 500 bikers come flowing onto Woodland Ave. Gray beards and bandanas, vests and tattoos, blue denim trousers and boots. They cruise up and down like cowboys astride their Harleys, or lounging and slouching, they down a cold brew and chat with their babes beside their idle machines, also slouching. What better way to navigate your midlife crisis than to join the tribe and ride from rally to rally, blast in on your electro-glide, ultra-high torque, wicked cool device. Over 1 million Americans have died. I've had my second booster. I wear a mask when it's appropriate, but the odds are 2 to 1 I'm going to get it. And given my age, I might become the one who puts it over 1,000,001. But there's nothing more I can do. And I take note that it's summer and we're up at the lake. White clouds rebound off the blue-gray water. The sun is warm. My shoulders bake. Cold beer slides down my throat. Potbelly. When I retired, 6 pairs of pants I used to wear to work hung for a year inside my bedroom closet. When I finally reached for one, too tight, as were successively the other 5. Enormous revelation. I had acquired a pot. So I ordered an indoor bike from Amazon, which I pedaled for 30 minutes twice and declared it a modern-day torture device. My choices were stark, but then it hit. Hey, I'm 81. And I went down to Macy's and bought me some pants that fit. This one is called Ethel Oldenhammer, 1952 to 2022. I can't help but feel this jolt when I scan the obituaries, note the lifespans of artists and authors. I'm already older than they were. I know they don't hold it against me, but by rights I should be dead, rather than shopping or watching a movie. Still, I'm just alive as any child, although they don't waste their existence dwelling on how it's all borrowed. In the distance, from our camp front porch, beyond the lake, sits the misty blue-gray saddle of Whiteface Mountain. On a clear day etched with ski trails, set aflame by Norway's Berger Rudd in the 1932 Olympic Games. Now their distant snake-like windings remind me of those crisp, cold winter days when quickly planted poles and pumping thighs could keep me vertical and free from trees on the treacherous Black Diamonds out at Stowe. Another thrill my now unwilling body no longer supplies. But I'm grateful it's still pumping blood north of my neck to keep my mind alive. And if I close my eyes, I still can send it, screaming down that slope like Berger Rudd. How am I doing? Okay with time?
Yeah, fine. I think, oh yeah, you've just been going a few minutes, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Why they do it? Thou still unvarnished bride of slow arrivals, thou still unvarnished bride of ideal silence. No, no. How long did Keats keep calling before his bride of quietness arrived? But such was his satisfaction that he dared to seek recapitulation by setting out to write a second line. And this so fulfilled him that all he wanted to do was write another and another, in spite of the blood-tinged cough that took him to a little room in Rome beneath the Spanish steps, which did not stop his urge to find the best word, the best lines to join to one another in a poem. Cosmic. I'm feeling rather small this afternoon, a frame of mine the cosmos has imposed, my puny stature underneath the moon, and that I am of basic stuff composed. It's all the same, electrons, neutrons, protons, a rock, a cloud, a lake, a planet, us. Those bits perform their designated actions, and somehow their arrangements turn out thus. Yet maybe mine is more than just dumb luck. Perhaps my atoms gathered with a will. that formed from inside the earth's primordial muck and specified, with Ken, this hole I'll fill. Couple of poems about my Air Force days. Options. I wished I were in love with her. My girlfriend would have been the perfect answer. Married joy, the perfect draft deferment. I wished I were in love with mathematics. I could have had a scholarship to grad school. Behind the ivied walls, pursue a PhD. Running to Canada, shooting myself in the foot, were options even more onerous, I thought, than dropping all options, letting myself get drafted. So I took the if you can't beat 'em approach, became a part of the Wednesday noon marchers down College Street to drill at Birchfield Park. ROTC, they let me join the Air Force, a bunk in a BOQ in Alabama, a view of the Tombigbee from above, then the mighty Mekong blanched by moonlight, all because I couldn't fall in love. This next one is titled SIE, 3 initials. Kramer and Malloy had already done it, self-initiated elimination. So was I on the edge of my BOQ bed, head drooped in anguish, considering it. 5 weeks into pilot training, still barfing into a bag on every flight. For this, did I need 4 years of college? Then this thought. Kramer and Malloy were in North Dakota, staring at a panel of switches and gauges in the intricate recesses at the bottom of a missile silo. So I stepped into my flight suit, pulled up my boots, and stuffed another barf bag in my pocket. Poets and writers. In the comic strip about a freelance writer, from his regular spot in the coffee shop, his pen clenched in his writing hand, Adam silently waits and grinds his teeth, unable to take a single step into the vast Sahara that confronts him. From whiffs of thought so brief and disparate, he's trying to build a block of words about who or where or what, doing whatever or not, that no one has ever said that way before. Stone silence. But because there were no new exhibits, I drifted into ancient Greek statues. Larger than life-size warriors and athletes, funeral stelae, rectangular reliefs. One held me in my wandering, a woman seated, tranquil in her flowing pleated gown, her smooth bare arms, her languid cheeks, a laurel in her gentle marble curls. Almost alive. If only I could speak to her, learn about her life, her aspirations. What did we have in common? Maybe we're related. I'll read the rest of my poems from my most recently published book, Easing Into It. Moosilauke. I remember turning back in snow knee-deep on the steep part of the trail, dense woods where the little stream becomes a plunging falls. Let's see, that would be 30 years ago. Today I read of death on Moosilauke. Mid-March, experienced climber, 3-day search, his wife and family frantic, helicopters, drones, finally a footprint. He died doing what he loved, said his son. In 2 weeks, I turned 80. One by one, flying, skiing, motorcycling, hiking, have all become the things I love. Suzuki 450. Rather than see me splattered on 89 South, my guardian angel breathed, blew out a piston. My Dorchester motorcycle guy said it was shot and it wasn't worth fixing. and gave me leave to hug 11 grandkids, visit Venice, become a so-so poet, read 400 books, and with Kathleen grow old. But oh, how I love to operate that thing, one with it up canted mountain curves, the way that just a touch of throttle put me on the back of a springing cheetah. I had wings then. I rode above the highways, Pegasus in leather jeans and jacket. Solipsist. Awkward passing of time in the entrance foyer, as one by one they step into my consciousness. First William, young, clean cut, loquacious, who will introduce us. Then Mary Ann, friendly, middle-aged, director of the reading series. Next, my fellow readers, Francois, a Black man with a heavy Haitian accent, and Suzanne, chubby with a nervous chuckle. I awaken every morning into me. Unable to be anybody else, the world becomes whatever my eyes make it. Now they've brought me all these nice new people. I strain to keep the train of small talk going, foster them, speak up for their existence. Irresistible force. It was the best time to be a Yankee fan. To be 6 in 1947, live in New Jersey and have a father who took me to the stadium to see them. It was irresistible, a basic force of physics. Yogi Berra swatting impossible pitches into the right center bleachers. Phil Rizzuto leaping over driving spikes, firing to first to turn the double play. The great Joe DiMaggio loping like an antelope in the endless Serengeti of center field. But when Mickey Mantle hit an epic homer to win one in the ninth in 55, I felt a strange new mix of joy and sorrow, like the weakened pull of Earth on a passing comet, as if that force were flying out of range. Mary. For me, it was the middle of 4th grade, when girls stopped being other kids with dresses. Suddenly, butterflies were waving their wings at their desks, attracting my attention, especially Mary Zito. Olive skin, black hair and bangs, so pretty. That summer, I asked her to the movies, the Saturday matinee, Pinocchio. We must have walked there together, there and back. I must have brought her tickets, maybe popcorn. But all I remember of that day is Mary in her bright white party dress, a little blue design around the bottom, smiling as she came toward me down her steps. I have 3 more poems, short. Monarch butterflies. The black and golden blanket on our bushes each September has now become 2 lonely wings packing for its trip to Mexico. To witness so much beauty, to watch it disappear in 20 years, to witness the extinction of a species beneath the seething sun, the searing moon. Christmas cards. Seems they've done away with virgins and mangers, angels and trumpets proclaiming the babe in the hay. They've been replaced by photos of families and friends, posing beside their adorable children and dogs. First, I'm like, who the hell are these people? Then I look at the names. My God, what happened to them? And why at Christmas are they assaulting me with these images of our mortality? Please, let's all just go back to the baby Jesus, or at least just a shot of the kids and the dog. This is the last one. Till the day. 3 months since my office door clicked shut and I looked behind me down the corridor. Now, my coffee cup exhausted, I gaze across the lake. Smooth, slate gray, brief random ripples. A sphinx, I watch time pass in the guise of building cumuli. I trace it back, the Punic Wars, the dinosaurs, and forth, the universe expands and then collapses. Still, here I am, staring into endlessness. I sense that time is not a process, but a thing, a sideless box out deep between the clouds, devoid of all events. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken. Yeah. So many of your poems I find help me sort of ease these ongoing transitions, a lot to reflect on there.
Yeah, well, they come fast.
No kidding. I will, why doesn't everybody go ahead and unmute and applaud audibly, if you like, for all three of our poets. And here are the links again. I think we have time if anyone cares to, we do in a few minutes, ask questions or make comments audibly to any of us. There's been a lot of good comments in the chat too, of course. I mean, not any of us, I mean any of the three poets. It's not compulsory. But, and again, we actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to save the chat because, and then I'll send it out to the poets anyway. So save chat. And so you guys can all see what has been said. So, well, all right. If there's no immediate need to speak, I want to thank, let's applaud everyone, all three again, please. Richard and Ken and Terry. It's been a great program. So thank you. And again, we'll, if you are not a member of the New England Poetry Club, you can join easily at nepoetryclub.org. You'd think it would be NEPC.org, but no, that's the New England Pediatric something. Okay, so it is. I tried it. nepoetryclub.org. You can find out about how to join. It's inexpensive and there's a lot of benefits, and you can get on our email list. And if you are on the email list already, you will and there's the, thank you, Mary, there's the link. As I said, we're going to have another Zoom event in March, later in March, and you'll get news about that. So, okay, well, for now, thanks very much. And we'll say good afternoon. Have a great evening. Thanks a lot.